No nail guns. No flat-pack cabinets. No plastic trim pretending to be wood. 100 years ago, builders looked at cheap factory-made houses and said absolutely not. They built homes by hand. On purpose. To last forever. And somehow, that exact same rebellion is now happening inside 400 square foot tiny homes. This is the Craftsman tiny home. And what makes it different from every other small home on this channel is not the shape. It is the hands that built it. Real craftsmanship. Real history. Real skill you can actually see. That is affordable tiny living. Subscribe now. Hit the bell. We do not do surface level builds here. The Industrial Revolution is flooding America with cheap, mass-produced, ornamental housing. And a small group of architects say no. The Greene brothers in California. Gustav Stickley on the East Coast. Their argument was simple. Stop hiding the structure. Stop faking the materials. Build a home that shows you exactly how it was made. That argument became the Craftsman style. One of the most recognizable, most beloved residential movements in American history. And here is the part nobody expects. It works just as well at 400 square feet as it does at 4,000. Because Craftsman was never about size. It was about detail. About proportion. About a home that feels like it was made by someone who cared. Craftsman tiny homes are showing up across the Pacific Northwest, California, Appalachia, and custom builds everywhere. People want something that feels permanent instead of disposable. Floor areas from 300 square feet for a minimalist cottage to 800 square feet for a fully detailed 2-bedroom build. Price points from $95,000 to $280,000 depending on how far the joinery goes. This is one of the most labor-intensive tiny home styles you can build. It is also one of the most rewarding. But before we walk through it room by room, you need to know exactly what makes this style unique. Because it is not one thing. It is four. 1. The structure is never hidden. Every other home style spends money covering up how it was built. Soffits. Drywall. Decorative trim hiding the real structure underneath. Craftsman does the opposite. Exposed rafter tails. Exposed ceiling beams. Tapered columns that show you exactly how the load travels down to the stone below. The structure is the decoration. Nothing is faked. Nothing is hidden. 2. The materials are honest. Quarter-sawn white oak. River stone. Cedar shingles. Materials chosen because they age well, not because they look new on day one. No vinyl pretending to be wood. No laminate pretending to be stone. If it looks like oak, it is oak. 3. The furniture is built into the architecture. This is the one that genuinely surprises people. In a Craftsman home, furniture is not bought. It is built. The inglenook. The window seat. The china cabinet. All of it constructed directly into the walls during the build itself. In a tiny home, that single idea changes everything about how much you can fit into 400 square feet. 4. It was built to outlast everything around it. Mortise and tenon joinery. Hand-applied finishes. Techniques that have not changed in over a century because nobody has found a better way to do it. A Craftsman home built in 1910 is still standing today, often in better shape than houses built decades later. 4 reasons. 1 result. A tiny home that does not just look handcrafted. It actually is. Now let us go see it for ourselves. Starting with the porch. Look at this porch. 6 to 8 feet deep. The full width of the home. Not decoration. A real outdoor room, shaded and lived in. And look at what is holding it up. Tapered columns. Wide at the base. Narrowing as they rise. Sitting on stone piers instead of touching the ground directly. That taper is not a style choice. It is the structure explaining itself. You are looking at exactly how the load travels down into the stone. Nothing hidden. Now look up at the roof. Low pitch. Deep overhangs reaching well past the walls. And underneath every single one of them, the rafter tails are left exposed. No soffit. No box. No hiding the bones of the building. This is the single most recognizable signature in Craftsman architecture. The roof shows you exactly how it works. The materials follow the same rule. Cedar shingles. River stone. Fieldstone chimneys. Nothing here was ever meant to look brand new. It was meant to age well. And the windows. Grouped in clusters instead of one big pane. Multi-pane upper sashes over a single clear lower sash. A detail straight out of the original Craftsman bungalow playbook. From the outside, this home is making a statement. Patience. Skill. Total material honesty. Step inside. Because the detail only gets more intense from here. Notice how low this ceiling feels. 8 to 9 feet. Lower than most tiny homes on this channel. That is not a limitation. That is the entire point. Craftsman design is built for warmth, not drama. Cozy over cavernous. Grounded over soaring. And look at the beams running across that ceiling. Exposed. Stained to match the trim. The structure is not hidden up there either. Kitchen, dining, and living share one open volume. But watch how the architecture still defines each zone. A half wall here. A built-in bookcase column there. No full walls required. The woodwork itself does the separating. This is the trick. The Craftsman style was built for big houses with defined rooms. Shrink it down, and the details carry the identity even in one single open space. Mission-style pendants. Amber or mica glass shades. Warm, low, golden light that suits the dark wood everywhere around it. And during the day, light filters through those grouped multi-pane windows, breaking into a soft grid pattern across the floor. Quarter-sawn white oak. The signature wood of the entire style. That distinctive ray-fleck grain only shows up when the log is cut exactly this way. Floors. Trim. Cabinetry. All of it. And speaking of cabinetry. This is where it gets serious. This is where the Craftsman tiny home separates itself from everything else on this channel. Built-in furniture is not an upgrade here. It is the soul of the entire style. See that bench seating wrapping the fireplace? That is called an inglenook. The most iconic Craftsman built-in there is. Originally designed to pull people into one intimate gathering space. In a tiny home, it becomes a genius move. The bench doubles as storage. It flanks a compact fireplace. And it creates a defined seating zone inside an open floor plan without eating a single square foot of freestanding sofa would need. Now look at the window seat. Built into the wall below that grouped window. Storage underneath. A reading spot built into the architecture itself instead of bought separately. But this is where it gets insane for a 400 square foot home. A built-in china cabinet. Leaded glass doors. Quarter-sawn oak frame. Lifted straight out of a full-size historic bungalow and fitted into a tiny home dining zone. This one piece of joinery does the job of an entire freestanding cabinet while eating almost no floor space, because it lives inside the wall cavity instead of sitting in front of it. And every one of these features required mortise and tenon joinery. Hand-applied stains. Precisely fitted glass. This is not flat pack. This is not modular. This is hours of skilled hands. This defies the entire assumption that small homes have to choose between handcrafted character and space efficiency. The Craftsman style proves those two things were never in conflict. The built-ins exist precisely because the home is small. Every single one solves a space problem and makes a craftsmanship statement at the exact same time. Here is what actually makes this style different from everything else on this channel. Every other tiny home form we cover earns its identity from geometry. A roof slope. A wall angle. A curve. The Craftsman tiny home earns its identity from labor. There is no shortcut here. You cannot fake this look with paint and trim on a generic stud-framed box. The tapered columns. The exposed rafter tails. The inglenook. The china cabinet. Every single one demands a carpenter who knows joinery techniques that have not changed in over a century. Because they were correct the first time. Nobody has found a reason to improve on them. That labor costs real money. A fully detailed Craftsman tiny home runs 15 to 30% more per square foot than a simpler contemporary build with no comparable cabinetry. But here is what that extra money actually buys. Not decoration. Permanence. A 1910 Craftsman bungalow with its original inglenook still intact is, in most cases, in better shape today than homes built 40 years later with cheaper materials and faster methods. The Craftsman style was an argument against disposability. Shrink it down to 400 square feet in 2026, and it is making exactly the same argument it made in 1905. A small home built with real skill simply outlasts one that was not. So here is the question I want answered in the comments right now. Is the Craftsman tiny home worth the additional labor cost and build time required for authentic joinery and built-in cabinetry, compared to a simpler contemporary tiny home that achieves a comparable floor plan for significantly less money and in significantly less time? Or does the philosophy behind this style, honest materials, visible structure, furniture built into the architecture itself rather than purchased separately, represent exactly the kind of long-term value that a truly small home should be built around? Both positions are completely legitimate. Tell me exactly where you stand. Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this style changed how you think about what a small home is allowed to feel like, stay subscribed to Affordable Tiny Living. Because next week we are on site with a master carpenter building an authentic inglenook and a full set of built-in cabinetry inside a Craftsman tiny home from raw oak to the final hand-applied finish. That video is coming exclusively to this channel. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Share this video with anyone who thinks a tiny home has to feel temporary to be small. The Craftsman style proves it never has to. I am your host on Affordable Tiny Living. See you in the next one.